Before the lesson this morning, if you want to turn with me to Psalm 73, we're going to read 1 through 9. Psalm 73, 1 through 9. God certainly is good to Israel, to those who are pure in heart. But as for me, my feet came close to stumbling. My steps had almost slipped. For I was envious of the arrogant, as I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For there are no pains in their death, and their belly is fat. They are not in trouble like other people, nor are they tormented together with the rest of mankind. Therefore, arrogance is their necklace. The garment of violence covers them. Their eye bulges from fatness. The imaginations of their heart overflow. They mock and wickedly speak of oppression. They speak from on high. They have set their mouths against the heavens, and their tongue parades through the earth.
I'm just savoring the moment. Just bear with me. This is indeed a turn on your mic time. A treat for me to be here again after 7.5 years addressing this church. And so it is a great privilege to spend this time with you. And because it's been so long and the way life was just kind of shaping up, I didn't know if I ever would again. And so it's one thing I like about life. You just don't know. So here we are. When I was first offered the privilege of coming and speaking for you today, the very first thought that came to my mind was, I wonder how they have grown. I wonder how their relationship with God has matured. Over the past 7.5 years, I have had the time to stop and look back and think about the man I was the last time I stood before you and the man I am today. And I'm sure that many of you, perhaps in this length of time, have done the same and just kind of stopped and looked back and thought about who you were and who you are and who you are becoming. My goal in this lesson this morning is going to be to share with you one shift in perception that one experiences on this road of spiritual growth. You may imagine that over this period of time, I've had some shifts in perception. And we're going to talk about just one of those things that has made a huge difference in my life and in my relationship with God and how I see life. But before doing that, I want to kind of give you an idea of how this works. So I'd like you to imagine this room as representing God and His Word. And there are lots of windows. There's doorways over here and over there, and there's different ways of coming into this room. And there are different ways of viewing this room. So if you have been, so speakingly, looking at God through that window for the last 20 years, so you're looking into this room for the last 20 years, what do you see? You see an accurate picture of this room. But let's say that in the course of time you feel the urge or the necessity to look at the room through a different window, or somebody goes, hey, look at it through here. And what do you see? You see an accurate picture of this room, but it's different. There are things that you see that you didn't see before while you were standing at that window that you're so used to looking in. And this is what we sometimes call the lullaby effect. You've been looking at some of the most stupendous, mind-blowing, hope-instilling, spectacular things. And you're so used to them, they don't really excite you that much anymore. That can happen. I'm not saying it's happened around here, but that can happen. And it takes courage to look through a different window. But here is the principle when it comes to our growth, and that is that we grow on the edges of our comfort zone. If you're comfortable, it's likely that you've been sitting at the same window or peeking through the same door for a little bit too long. So that's kind of how it works. And so over this period of time, I have been able to pursue studies. I have read, I have meditated, I have shared, I have taught, I have preached. And one of the results of all of that, being led to look through different windows at God and at His Word, one of the things that came out of that is I began to ponder the day of my baptism and to appreciate in a different way what happened on that day. And I want to share some of the thoughts connected to that with you this morning. Back in November of 1973, a while back, I was baptized for the forgiveness of my sins up here in Kirkland, Washington. And my teacher and I studied all day that day. And I was baptized that evening. And I know we must have talked about many things in the course of that day. But if we talked about heaven and hell and reward and punishment, I do not recall that. I was 17 years old. And I did not come to his house and sit at his kitchen table to study because I wanted to know what God was going to give me. I agreed to the study because I wanted God. I wanted God. I did not simply come there because I wanted to change my life. I came there because I wanted to transcend it. I wanted to be exposed to a higher, we sing a song, Higher Ground. I wanted to transcend the life that I came out of. Get used to the setup up here. So we're going to come back to Psalm 73 in just a little while. But Gary Henry writes, in our moments of greatest courage, we reach forward. So yeah, it takes courage to go look through a different window, to listen to another perspective. And in our moments of greatest hope, this was my hope, to transcend, to rise above. In our moments of greatest hope, we reach upward. And I was doing so through the avenues that man had to offer me. But God, He knew where to put me, the right place and in the right time. So in times, in moments of greatest hope, we reach upward. Now, while I was in that study that day, in the course of our study, the teacher read Acts 9:4. Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? In that moment, I knew that the God that I had come to meet was for me. If anyone had been against me, it was me. But He was for me. I learned in that moment that to hurt Him, or excuse me, to hurt me was to hurt Him. And I knew in that moment that all of the pain and the loss that my siblings and I had suffered in our lives up to that point, I knew that He was right there with us. I knew that He suffered with us. That was it. That was it. I wrote some lyrics shortly after my brother AJ's death, reflecting this kind of a God. He's always been like this. In their affliction, He was afflicted. When Israel was afflicted in the wilderness, when Israel were slaves before that, and he heard their mourning, he was afflicted with them. And the angel of his presence saved them. And yeah, shortly after AJ passed away, I wrote some lyrics for him. And the song was called In a Better Day. And one of the verses that I wrote for him said, there were times when we could hardly see some kind of happy end. But there walked beside us all the while an everlasting friend. Though your face I will not see again in this realm of time. Oh, AJ, we will meet again where your heart is knit to mine. Together in a better day, heirs of life, forever unbroken. On the everlasting way, joy unending, peace transcending and free, ours forever will be. Over in the 62nd Psalm, David was surrounded by godless, murderous, conniving, violent people who wanted nothing but his harm. But he could say, for God alone, my soul waits in silence. From him comes my salvation. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be greatly shaken. And down further in the psalm, he uses almost the exact same words, except in a line he substitutes hope for salvation. God is the source, he is the origin of everything. And this is really important. Everything you have, everything you are, everything you will ever need, he is the origin of it. It all comes from him. We have been granted every spiritual blessing in the heavenly places in Christ. And although God has granted us his precious and magnificent promises, we must be careful not to neglect the most important thing of all, God himself. God for his own sake. That's the shift. Sometimes we are exposed to a works-oriented culture. And things change. And we begin to try to be good enough. E.B. Pusey was a 17th century Anglican priest. I'll take a quote from whoever it is if it's true. But he said that God's greatest gift to those who seek him is himself. And so on that baptism day, and I remember it like it was yesterday, although it was over 50 years ago, I remember the moment. And I came into that baptistry with my teacher because I decided to give all of my trust to God. Now, define God. I'm not even going to try. It reminds me of something attributed to Mother Teresa, and somebody asked her about her prayer life, and they said, "Well, what do you say to God when you pray?" She said, "I don't say anything. I just listen." And they asked her, "Well, what does he say to you?" She said, "He doesn't say anything. He just listens." And if you can't understand that, I can't explain it to you. I can't explain to you what that moment was like when that teacher pulled me up out of that water. And there was nothing between God and me. And guess what? I hadn't earned it. I didn't do anything. All I did was say, "I trust you. What do you want me to do?" And I came out of that water, and I can't explain it. I just there was we were free. We were together. He gave himself to me, and he gave himself to you. So we hear Jesus saying in places like John 14:23, "If anyone loves me, he will keep my word, and my Father will love him, and we will come to him and make our home with him." And that's to the grave. But when we forget that day and how we were accepted, adopted, cleansed, where there's nothing between us, when we forget that day and start trying to earn that, you know what happens? We forget our purification from our former sins. And we start going downward because we're trying to earn something we can't earn, instead of accepting it as a free gift, just like you did that day. And guess what? Ups and downs and rounds and fighting and holding on, and you find out on the other side, when you stay faithful. Remember my motto, you don't quit ever. And on the other side, it's like, I haven't gone anywhere. Where you been? Right? And so we say with the psalmist, as the deer pants for the water brook, so my soul pants for you. For you, oh God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When shall I come and stand before God? Someone said, this is deep calling unto deep, and the longing heart understands it. When Well, I'll get to that in a second. Let's go to our theme then this morning as we come up over the hill and start coming down the other side. Asaph, who wrote this psalm, was troubled. He was a faithful Jew. He did everything that entails in his life. But he was troubled when he saw the shalom of the wicked. That doesn't even sound right, does it? The word shalom there is used for prosperity. It means not only peace, but there are other nuances to the word, and one of those is well-being and prosperity. And he saw that their bodies were fat. In that terminology, it meant that they were rich. They didn't seem to have any worries about anything. And he was so troubled that he almost just gave it up until he said, I went into the sanctuary of God. I've so often tried to imagine and feel what that man must have felt. And if you know about the Solomon's temple and the grandeur of it and the beauty of it, every single detail right from the mouth of God, this is how you make it. And you walk into that sanctuary, into the presence of the eternal God, and then your perspective changes and you realize that we're only here for a moment and God is eternal, and whatever is happening out there is going to get taken care of really quickly. And even though his foot almost slipped, he could say, nevertheless, I am continually saying this to God, I am continually with you. You have taken hold of my right hand. By your guidance, by your counsel, you will guide me. And afterward, receive me to glory. Whom have I in heaven but you? On earth or in this world, there is nothing that I desire besides you. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. And if we have a desire for God, we're going to see how we balance this all out. But when we confess that we are empty without Him, why does the psalmist's soul long for God, thirst for God, wait silently for God? Because without Him, we're empty. A Christian brother some years ago, I may have been still preaching here. You ever heard me mention a family camp in Montana? Then I was here. But at that family camp, brother named Steve Dottie, preached one of the lessons. And there's something that he said about grace that I thought would be worth looking at. Often, we think of grace and we think, well, that means forgiveness. Right? Grace, we forgive. Well, that's only a piece. The way he put it was, grace is the divine influence working in the inner man and manifesting in the life. So the Apostle Paul could say, by the grace of God, I am who I am. Yeah, he was an enemy of God. He tried to destroy the church. God showed him grace. But he also said, Christ lives in me. No longer I who live, It says an inner transformation manifesting on the outside. That is the Spirit of grace. That is what the Spirit is dying to accomplish if you've got the faith for it. But here's the balance. Paul told Timothy in 1 Timothy 4:7, discipline yourself for the purpose of godliness. This is another perceptual shift that I've undergone since I saw you last. And what this means is that whatever we do, if you say, I don't read my Bible enough, Bible reading is a discipline. I'm not satisfied with my prayer life. Prayer is a discipline. And we could go on down the list. But my point is that whatever God has placed in here to give us His counsel and guide us as to how to live productive lives, successful lives, they don't just happen to you. You have to cultivate. You want to have a better prayer life? You have to cultivate it. You have to discipline yourself. And why are you doing it? For the purpose of godliness. Godliness is a God-centered life. That's why we do what God tells us, so that He can be the center of our life and we can develop into the people that He would have us be. And so, intellectual knowledge and emotional desire for God have a place. But there is a point at which we have to make a commitment and follow through on that commitment. Another short quote here from Evelyn Underhill. She says, reason comes to the foot of the mountain. It is the industrious will urged by the passionate heart which climbs the slope. It doesn't just happen. Attending Bible classes is good. Hearing a sermon is good. But that's not where your spiritual growth is going to come from. It's going to come from a commitment, and it's going to come from discipline and growing and learning on the edge of those comfort zones. And so this is the way. Oops, sorry, I'm out of slides. This is the way. See what comes up, right? But this is the way our hearts become the joyous home of God. Keep His word. The Father loves us. The Father and the Son come and make their home with us. And God, as the originator of all things, is indeed all whom we have in heaven. So let us seek God. Spiritual blessings, godliness is profitable for this life and for the life to come. There's all kinds of secondary benefits that we receive. But we have to remember the most important thing, just like you did on that day when you were baptized. You were seeking God and God alone. Don't lose that. Keep that. And let your life be formed by that seeking of God. That's enough out of me. If there's anybody in this room that is not a Christian, and if you have heard and you have learned because you can't come to Jesus unless the Father draws you. And he will draw you through understanding who he is and what he wants of you. And you put your faith with that, and you are someone that can come to him and be baptized for forgiveness of your sins so that he can come and dwell with you. If there's anyone here that is subject to that call, let it be known. I have great faith there is water. Oh, we'll have to put some in there. Okay. Okay. But nothing prevents you from obeying the gospel if that be your wish as we stand and sing our song of invitation.